All right, let's go. All right, Tim, let's go.
Okay, Dal, last week we were talking about when you were in the Madison Square Garden when the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, and there was we'll call it a happy riot outside, and you couldn't get out of there, so you had to get into an ambulance. And
ambulance, yes.
You had to pay $10, and Harry Neal was mad that he had.
Yeah, and Harry Neal was mad.
And but that, and then we were to say that happened to you guys, the Hockey Night in Canada crew, when Montreal won the Stanley Cup.
Well, it was Ron and I were in a bar, and then and they were having a good time.
Yeah, Montreal, they were kind of like another happy riot.
Yeah, there was another happy riot, and Ron Harrison never got mad at the start.
And he was the executive producer of Hockey.
Yeah, he was the executive producer, and I was making fun of him. I just want to know, what was your thinking? Well, he said the Canadians were the...
Right, because what happened was you were making fun of them because, Del, they were for the... So this was for the Stanley Cup. They were going to win the Stanley Cup. You know, I think the opening song, they have some good hard rock song that, set the mood that they're going to win.
And which they have now.
And they had the tokens a weem away. The lion sleeps tonight.
Yeah. No.
A weem away, a weem away, a weem away. Right. That was the song they had for the opening.
That was the song they had for the opening, believe it or not. And I said, just tell me, I just want to know. And well, the Lions was sleeping in the jungle. And that was the Canadians, and anyhow, I just kept bugging them all the time.
Yeah.
And I remember looking out the window, and right down below was they were rioting.
Yeah. That was the year Kerry Fraser. That was what year was that? I forget what year it was, but that was the year Kerry Fraser called, or didn't call, the high stick on Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, he says, how do you think I got cut?
He got cut in Game 6 in the semifinals, and so the Leafs power play was on a tear.
Yeah.
And so they didn't call the penalty, and back then it was if you drew blood, it was an automatic game misconduct. Yeah. So it should have been 5 and Gretzky thrown out of the game. Nope, nobody saw it. The linesman, we didn't see it. Didn't see it.
Kevin Collins never saw it. No, nobody saw it.
Nope, nobody saw it. And so it goes into overtime, and then Kerry Fraser calls the chintziest boarding penalty on John Anderson. And guess who scores the winner in overtime?
Who?
Gretzky. And then
he said that was his greatest goal.
Yeah, and then they came back, and Gretzky just went nuts in Game 7, and they won. So the question is that actually before Kerry Fraser makes that call, Leafs win. It's Montreal, Leafs in the finals. Who would win? This was 1993. So who would win?
I think the Leafs would have won.
Yeah. You know the funny thing is though, Dad, with that, compared to Leafs today, and compared to Leafs to like
everybody has legal sticks.
Yeah. But I just think the fans love that team with Wendell Clark and Dougie Gilmour and Potvin and Ellett and Anderchuk. They don't love this team like they love that team. They just love that Leafs team.
Well, because it was so rough and tough, and it was rough and tough.
Yeah.
And that's why they loved it.
Right. Well, Wendell, and remember all the fights he had with Probert, and that big fight in that series in '93 with Marty McSorley.
Remember Curtis Joseph went after the referee knocked
Magoo,
knocked him down, and he didn't give him a penalty either.
No, that was back then when there was one ref. Who kind of knew the thing, and he could have thrown him out of the game. He could have got suspended, Curtis Joseph, but he just said, well,
it's just passion.
Yeah,
that's what happens.
But then you and Ron got caught in the riot after Boston beat Vancouver. They were rioting.
There's a guy hung there.
Yeah, that's a whole story that was never really told.
Oh, yeah?
They found a guy, I think it was in Stanley Park, with a Bruins sweater on.
Damn.
And they said it was suicide, but it wasn't. But how did you guys get there? You had to.
We had to run. We had to run back to the hotel.
Yeah.
We left early.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you've had some stories. Someday we should get into about the time you guys you and Mom, Ron and Carrie got left behind in Chicago.
Oh, that was. And Ron went up to the bus driver and asked him, he said, do you stop at the Drake Hotel? And
well, because down Chicago, it was scary. Like that was a bad part of town.
And you know, I was laughing.
I know. Like how could Hockey Night in Canada, how much money they had, they wouldn't have a limo or a car for you and Mom, Ron and Carrie to leave Chicago Stadium, the old Chicago Stadium.
Yeah, the old Chicago Stadium. Well, we made it back, and I'm still whole.
Okay, Dallas, let's get back to some of the questions. So what's the next question?
Habs forever. Hey, Grapes. How do you think of Houston, Texas, getting a team? Did you ever play in Texas?
Numerous times in Texas. And
well, you played for Tulsa, so you must have went to Texas a bunch of times.
Yeah, I
You said they liked the fights.
They love the fights. They used to come just to see the fights.
All right, from Chris Sims, what was your favorite original hockey rink from back in the day?
My favorite one was Pittsburgh. We seemed to have more problems there than we had anywhere. There were always a rowdy crowd in Pittsburgh. I don't know whether I brought it on or not.
Yeah, in fact, everywhere with the Bruins you go, it was kind of a rowdy crowd.
I remember telling the story about when this guy had this dog, and he would look like 4 feet high. It was a great big dog, great big, and I waved at him, and give him the thumbs up sign and everything like that. And I went out for the third period. We were beating him 3-0, and he had it hanging.
It's a blue dye.
Oh, yeah, no.
So what was it like the first time you were in Chicago and they?
Oh, the first time I remember the very first time we were in Chicago. They had that.
Well, they had there was like a big horn blast from his yacht.
And they hadn't played that yet. And boy, when we scored the first goal, they didn't play it. And then when they played when they scored, holy Dinah!
Was it loud?
Was it ever loud? And it was from the Blackhawks.
The yacht,
the guy.
Bill Wirtz's yacht. That was a funny story. You always said too the one of the loudest arenas was the Forum in L.A.
Oh yeah.
And they were always.
Oh yeah! Boom, boom, boom. And what they did was they stamped their feet.
Yeah, on like a metal.
Metal thing. Holy Dinah. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell a quick funny story where Gloria Loring used to do the national anthem. Yeah. And she used to stand out in the middle of the ice, and she'd just stand there, and the place would just go insane. And she wouldn't sing, like she'd just stand there, get the crowd into a frenzy. And she had back then they had a cord. It wasn't a wireless mic. They had a cord, and so the first game was kind of crazy. And then you said to Frosty Forrestal.
I said to Frosty Forrestal, I said, and Frosty said, "I'll take care of that." I said, what the hell is he going to do? And when she went to sing, it was nothing. Yeah. And she had to sing over by the penalty box. Which
he cut the mic cord.
He cut the. And I don't know where he cut. I think he cut the cord, and she had to sing over by the penalty box, which wasn't the same.
No, it ruined it. Yeah. Like I've been to a lot of the rinks. I haven't been to the old Olympia, but I've been all. But for the best place to watch hockey was the old Boston Garden. Oh yeah. There was no comparison. Yeah. When you were on that second deck of the Boston Garden, like you were literally right over the ice. Like if you fell, you would have fell right onto the center ice.
And funny, nobody did.
No, the way they used to drink, holy smokes there.
Okay. Hey, Grapes, is the season too long? Should they shorten the season up and add 2 more or 3 more weeks to the playoffs?
I think it should go down to 75 games, and they should add more and more teams to the playoffs.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It makes sense.
Right. I mean,
I don't know if you'd have trouble with the players with that.
like, what do you think? Like, I would think the players would like that. Less games.
Less games, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then.
I don't know how how they are though.
Yeah, I would think the owners wouldn't like that. I think the owners want more games, right?
Yeah, more money, yeah.
But I know the TV would like that. Like, I know the executives on the TV, they don't like running hockey in the middle of June.
I watched the game last night. No hitting. Guy, he beat me a little mean. The guy, hey, what is this shit? What is this?
It's like beer hockey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dell, you're playing beer hockey now, and you're getting now. Dell's starting to play beer again. He's a goalie. He's all sore because he hasn't played in a while.
Yes, my body hurts.
It's exciting now to watch the race. Who's getting in the playoffs?
Well, Canadians
and Calgary are right there.
You see the coach, St. Louis, just dying, dying back there.
They were down 1-0. They came back. So
and they won. Huh?
They won. But here's the other question, Dad. Some guy wrote. He goes, Hofferman Horse. Hey, Don, do you think it's time to get rid of the shootout? I think they should have 3 points for a regular win, 2 points for an overtime win, and 1 point for an overtime loss.
Well,
and play 3-on-3.
The guy sounds pretty good. The shootout after, I don't like that.
No, I think it's got to go.
I think it's got to go.
I don't think the players would like that though. Because you got to play 3-on-3 the whole time. I agree. I just don't think winning a game in regular time and then you don't get rewarded more than if you win it in overtime. You should get a better reward. It should go 3. In the end of the day, if Florida wins in overtime and Montreal wins in regular, it's the same. They both get rewarded the same way.
Yeah, I really don't think the shootout is the right way to do it.
From Susan B. Leaf. Hey, Don. Miss you on Hockey Night in Canada. I have a question. Were you ever, when you're doing Coach's Corner, offered a job in the United States?
Well, I was offered a job in Pittsburgh, if you can believe it or not, in Pittsburgh.
But just to let you know, this is how much they wanted you, Dad. They were going to pay you big dough.
Yeah.
It was big dough, U.S., and they were going to have a private jet fly you down up to Toronto for the day of the game, fly you down for the game, put you up in a hotel, do the game, and then fly you back that night.
Wow!
And I made the biggest mistake of my career. I showed a picture of hockey. I think it was in the Hockey
News. Yeah,
Hockey News, and it was on the cover. There was Mario had his shirt off, and Jagger had his shirt off too. And I said, "There's Mario and his sister," and I said that was the end.
Yeah, it was a fun. The joke doesn't do it justice because Jagger had hair down below his shoulders. He had a big mullet, curly hair,
curly black hair,
and well, so did
Mario. But Mario was big. He was kind of a big guy.
Yeah.
So once you said there's a picture, then to add insult to injury, you said when Jagger falls down, they don't know on the ice. They don't know whether to call the trainer, his hairstylist, or his jeweler.
Yeah.
No.
And Jagger said that if he broadcasts the game, I'm staying over in Czechoslovakia.
It's good.